What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid techno, and we're back with some acid-dub-techno, aka acid reggae, acid ska more specifically in this case. And indeed, I wanted to give a shout out not only to Chris Liberator, who sent me this recently from the Stay Up Forever website, but also Dima, because I believe this label, which is a new label, International Ska Techno Review, so a very sub-style specific label, I believe it's a sub-label of Dima, of his Interstate 1 label, which is out of Russia. Shout out to Dima, friends with them on Facebook for quite a while now. Big fan of the Interstate 1 label, and yeah, to the best of my knowledge, this is a sub-label of Interstate 1, and it's distributed by Flat Life, so shout out to Jack Wax as well, whose Flat Life Records is a great label in the acid world itself and also distributes a whole number of other labels. So shout out to everyone involved in this record, including the one and only Jah Scoop, the Master, the Geezer, also Guy McAffer, as many people will know. And yeah, ultimately he is the all-time master of this style. Now there are many other artists who championed it, especially in recent years. Benji has been a purveyor of the acid dub sound, as well as Nesbitt, who's on this record as well. Bad Boy Pete, shout out to Pete as always. But yeah, bottom line, Jah Scoop remains the all-time master of this style, and he's done a number of tracks now with MC Natty Campbell, and this is another one. And of the 4 tunes on this record, which I like all of them, I would say at least in the first few weeks of having this record, it's a 2024 record, came out recently, so it's still fresh off the presses, or hot off the presses. But yeah, I'd say this one, Ital Acid Skank, and I don't know if there's specifically supposed to be a connection to Italy or Itals, but at the end of the day, I do think it's my favorite of the 4, and it has a specific overt reference or shout out to all acid ravers. Indeed, the vocal in this one loops, and it's about giving a shout out to all acid ravers and that this is a special tune for them. So yeah, bottom line, let's listen. This is Jah Scoop featuring Natty Campbell on International Ska Techno Review 1 from 2024, and it's called Ital Acid Skank. I feel like she's trouble right now. I feel like she's going to attack me here. What are you doing?
A special request to all the acid raving
Snarly acid out of the gate. Wait for those keys to come in.
Mash up the answer now. And the dance and then them all the acid river, all the acid river. They come in and they dance, they call it a lie. Acid, 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 acid.
I like how the vocal builds. Brilliant. Again, there's very little that Guy does that I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, honestly, whether it's his regular acid techno, which is not regular in any sense, it is superior, or specifically his acid-dub-techno as Jah Scoop. He's gone under some other aliases over time. There's, again, very little that I'm not massively a fan of. Some of his stuff on Raw, which is one of his labels, it's like analog waveforms is what the latter two letters mean. I forget what the first letter is. That's more like minimal style techno. Some of that it doesn't jump out to me as much, although it's still great production value. So yeah, that might be the one part of his production output that like doesn't immediately jump off the page to me. Nevertheless, he's arguably my favorite producer, has been for a very long time, and in recent years in particular, I've become such a big fan of the Jah Scoop stuff. And it's not just that it's his bubbly acid, but mixed with reggae and reggae keys and ska rhythms and reggae and ska brass, but his ability to use samples from like classic reggae and ska records is unparalleled. And I love that in recent years he's begun to work with some MCs who record vocals anew for the tracks he's making, including Natty Campbell and this tune specifically. So yeah, bottom line, Jah Scoop is a master. Shout out again to International Ska Techno Review. I hope they bring out a bunch of the tracks on this label, or a bunch of releases on this label, because there's very few labels. Sonic Iration, shout out to Benji. That's another label that's putting out specifically acid dub tunes. That's made in conjunction with Guy / Jah Scoop. I don't know why my brain and mouth are not in conjunction right now, but nevertheless, the point here is that I support all acid dub releases on vinyl, and I hope that International Ska Techno Review continues with more installments. I don't even know what's happening right now. But yes, if you haven't heard, I did a recent mix when I got this record. Acid Skankin is the name. It's up on my channel, you can check it out. And I mixed it with a few other new tracks from this record that I had never used before, as well as some other acid dub tunes I've had for a while, in which I have used in mixes before. And one of the ones that I had not used in several of my recent acid dub sets is a tune called Good vs. Evil, also by Jah Scoop, on the Voodoo, Voodoo Projects recording label. It's called Good vs. Evil, and it has a very similar sound. There's that rhythmic acid, and then 2 bars later, acid, which is also in this. It also has this swanky, seductive brass part, just like this track, as well as those characteristic bubbly, squiggly geezer acid lines. So I didn't really think about that when I used Good vs. Evil right after this tune to start the set, but it was a really appropriate linking of 2 tracks because they share a lot of characteristics. So not only was the transition from this into Good vs. Evil, I think, quite seamless, but it also really gave the opening 10 minutes or so of the set a very particular flavor. So again, if you haven't heard Acid Skankin', I recommend checking that out. If you're not familiar with Jah Scoop's work, there are several reactions in my acid techno / acid dub techno reaction playlist that are already up, as well as other acid dub techno mixes that I've done. And just more generally, you can go on YouTube and find a lot of his tracks. And to be fair, Guy does some just reggae releases. There's a release, I forget what the lead title or lead track was called, but it was a 2-sided record that was just like dub music, and that was a surprise to me because I know he's made acid dub techno since the early 2000s. The very earliest Jah Scoop stuff is on the Highwire label, shout out to Ben Balaphonic, although that is a bit different from what the Jah Scoop sound has become since the late '80s, early 2010s. But I didn't know he made actual reggae / dub, and he does have at least a couple releases in that regard too. So bottom line, big shout out to Guy, big shout out to everyone involved in this release. Let me know what you think of the tune, and I will see you next time. Peace.